Welcome. My name is Tricia Denton. I'm the president of the League of Women Voters, Leelanau County. Thanks for coming out today to hear about early childhood. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization that encourages informed and active participation in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. We never ever support or oppose candidates or parties. Membership is open to women and men 16 years of age or older who subscribe to the purposes and policy of the League. 1/3 of our members are men. More information may be found at lwvleelanau.org. Annual dues are $5 for students, $60 a year for non-student individuals, or $90 for a household membership. Dues assistance is available. We currently have our annual fund campaign underway, and that is how we raise the funds to put on all the spectacular programming that we do. Only $5 of our membership, less than $5 of our membership actually stays with our local leagues. We have to pay for liability insurance and all kinds of other things. So if you support the work that we do, if you're a friend and you enjoy our monthly programs or some of the other projects that we're working on in the community, please consider supporting. Our Treasurer Nancy Duck is here, and she has forms. Some of the donations are tax deductible if that's something that you need, that's a need for you or something you'd like to participate in. Please see Nancy or I after today's forum. We appreciate any and all types of contribution, whether that's your time, your intention, or your resources, other resources. So thanks again. Membership applications, and if you like what you heard here and you want to get more involved, memberships applications are available online, also at lwvleelanau.org, or you can talk to me or any of our members who are wearing name tags after today's meeting. Our next forum will be held on May 1st. We will feature Speaker Justin Smith, Director of Youth Justice Policy with MCCD. He's the lead researcher and co-author of Restoring Kids, Transforming Communities. He's going to present on efforts to raise the age related to juvenile justice reform. Please mark your calendar and plan to join us then. There's a poster for that event. We will also have Joe Povolo from our Leelanau County Probate Court is going to participate in that conversation as well. So following today's presentation, we will take a quick break and then reconvene for a short but informative League member business meeting. Guests are welcome to attend that, even if you just want to learn more about the League. All are welcome. Today, in celebration of April being the month of the young child, we're going to present to you a forum titled, What Children Need, What Parents Want, and what is the community's role in supporting them. We will highlight issues in Leelanau related to early childhood needs and services. And I'm going to turn it over to Sue Miller to tell you more about our panel and how we're going to do that today.
Good morning, everyone. In previous forums, our Early Childhood Needs and Services Committee, which is one of our local league's committees, has focused on the topic of adverse childhood experiences and how early, often traumatic events can negatively impact children over their lifetimes. We learned how early intervention with young children and their parents can prevent and overcome the effects of these adverse experiences. Today, Ty Wessel will help us take a closer look at how children and their families are doing in Leelanau County. And then we'll hear directly from two parents who are both raising children in the county, and they both happen to be providing services for children in the county, Beatrice Cruz and Laura Toohey. Our goal is to focus on our youngest children, their needs and services available to them, and how our community can better support them. As I mentioned, Ty Wessel will be one of our speakers, and he hardly needs an introduction in this county. He's an educator who arrived in the county as a superintendent of Northport Schools. He's currently a county commissioner who's active in countless community groups, and he's contributed his time and good counsel to improving our county for the length of his time here. Beatrice Cruz is also a well-known figure in our community. She's a parent of 3 boys and is currently a parent liaison with Suttons Bay Schools and Traverse Bay Intermediate School District. She'll describe her work in more detail and also tell you about her earlier work with the Parenting Communities program. Laura Toohey is also a parent, raising 2 young boys under the age of 5 in our county. She's the program coordinator at the Leland Township Library, where she coordinates and facilitates literacy-based programs and services for children, families, and adults to encourage community engagement and connection. She also works with and supports other like-minded organizations in our county. She is a former early childhood educator. Both of these panelists are well connected to the parents of our community and can speak to the joys and challenges of raising children in our county. At the end of their presentation, we will close with another childhood advocate, and perhaps one of the most committed in our county, Patricia Sautis Little. And she will describe a new county initiative focused on the youngest children in our county. And following her presentation, which will be a short one, we're going to conclude with questions and answers. And as long as I've introduced 2 of our county commissioners to you, I'm going to take a little extra time and just welcome 2 additional county commissioners who are here today, Will Bonnick and Tony Ensorgi. And Tony, even though you're hiding way in the back, you're now acknowledged as being here and gathering information about this important topic. So thank you all for your participation today. And we're going to start with Ty.
Thank you. Good morning or good afternoon. Can everybody hear me? Thank you. We have a timekeeper here, and she has already warned me that wherever I am in my presentation, in about 18 minutes from now, I'm done. So I did want to start by telling you that at your place you have some handouts. I'm not going to be dealing with these very much right now, but take them with you. These are all recent statistics about young families and children in Leelanau County, and I think there's lots of good information in there. I would also tell you that I'm going to send my PowerPoint to the League, and they will post that. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. We can do that later, and you can always call me if you have questions. But I want to start today by, we all know how fortunate we are, Leelanau County. As I was in Florida last 2 weeks ago, and I read in the Record Eagle that Leelanau County #1 in the health of young families and in the health of residents in total. We know we've got the most beautiful views. We know we've got the best group of residents. We know we're in pretty good financial shape. So we could spend an hour or 2 talking about everything that's good about Leelanau County, and it would all be fun to talk about. But today I'm going to talk about our young children and our families, and I think we are in trouble, not just in Leelanau County. I think we're in trouble in this country because of where we are with some of our young children. There are lots of things the United States does better than anything else in the world, but we don't do education and early childhood nearly as well as some of our other countries. I didn't make a slide of this, but there's 34 countries listed here. And these are the achievement statistics of all of the children in these 34. They're the OECD countries. That's an organization for organizational and economic development. 34 countries, starting on the left and going to the right, the achievement of the people in the lowest income. And look where the United States is. We almost lead the world in the underachievement of families and students in poverty. And that's serious. And I think maybe besides some environmental stuff, maybe that's the most single important issue we face. Because as a country, we've got 40% of our families and children in poverty, and if we're not able to educate those 40% at the same level as the other 60%, we are in trouble. Now, our schools are doing a good job, but schools cannot alone solve that issue. And I got some slides I want to share with you. What I hope to cover in the next 15 minutes are a little bit of that, but here are some statistics of Leelanau County, and keep in mind that Leelanau County is in better shape than most, but 15% of our children in this county are in poverty level. 38% of the single parents in our county are living in poverty. 726 students of our small school population are on free and reduced lunch. The annual average cost for an infant care in our county is $9,882. If you're making minimum wage, that's a significant piece of your total income for the year. So if we're going to provide early childhood supports for young children, how do you do that if you're living in poverty? 20% of our county's residents are ALICE households. ALICE means full-time employed, but not having enough money to pay for necessities. 1 out of 5 of our families is identified as an ALICE household. That's a significant challenge to our county. Now, we're not the only county struggling with that. In fact, that's a little bit better than most other counties. But 1 out of 5 are full-time employed, struggling to make ends meet, and don't have enough money to provide for the necessities of life as proven. I mean, not able to get what they want, able to get what they need, a significant challenge. 48% of our third graders in our region, I don't have the statistics for our county, but we're right there. I mean, our county is right in the middle of the region. Almost half of our third grade students failed to test proficient in reading last year. Almost half. And in our county, there are 2,090 students this year who are food insecure, as identified by the federal government. Food insecure. That doesn't mean they don't have anything to eat. It means they don't have healthy food to eat. I think those are challenges. You don't need to see all of the details, but here's our county. And this color means we're going backwards. More people living in poverty in ALICE households than last year. So we're moving in the wrong direction there. Now we're not red, so we got fewer people in poverty, but we've got more ALICE households than we had last year. That's a significant challenge to our county. Here's something I pulled out of Psychology Today, and I'd like to read it to you. A few years ago, the study was published, the findings of many studies showing overall that the gap in achievement test scores between students from the richest 10% of the families and the poorest 10% of the families grew by 40 to 50%. As a country, we can't afford to have one of the biggest achievement gaps of any country in the world. That's not what we want to lead the world on, but we are almost leading the world in that. Here's some for state of Michigan. This was in the Bridge magazine last week. The gap between Michigan poor and Leelanau poor, and Michigan poor and Leelanau, or Michigan rich and Leelanau rich. The significant gap of achievement. Again, not something the schools can fix all by themselves. I want to talk about, there are lots of reasons to do early childhood education. Can you hear me? Lots of reasons to do early childhood education, early childhood programming. But one of the reasons we have to do it is it makes economic sense. It's a good investment. And how does it make good sense? We do a good job at 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and they get to school and they're ready. And if the kids aren't ready when they get to school, there are special ed costs, there's remediation costs, and most of the research says if you start school behind, you end school behind. And there's about a 6-year spread in most kindergarten classrooms between the least prepared and the most prepared. Now, if you're 5 years old and there's a 6-year spread, that's pretty significant. What it does mean is some of the people with the best opportunities, the best resources, are way ahead of where they ought to be. But then there's another group of people that are way behind, and about a 6-year spread. Well, schools cannot make up a 6-year spread during the kindergarten year. So what we know, if you enter school not ready for kindergarten, you're going to enter 3rd grade most likely not passing the reading test. So one of the reasons we want to do early childhood programming better is we want to save money on education later. This is what I was just mentioning. There's a 6-year, 20% are at 3-year-old level, 60% are in the 5 to 8-year level. Can you imagine a kindergarten teacher trying to teach 18 or 17 or 20 or 21 kids in a classroom with that kind of spread? I found a study a long time ago, but it struck in my mind, and we've got a lot of reading teachers in this audience. And 30 million word gap by age 3. The number of, not different words, but the number of utterances that people hear by age 3, 30 million more in the high economic households than in the low economic households. 30 million more utterances. Well, especially preschool, young children learn by interaction. They learn by hearing. They learn by being read to. They learn by the words they hear. So if there's a 30 million gap, just think of the disadvantage that they have. Networks Northwest is an organization in the region that works with private business, works with government, and focuses on planning and resource development. And in a report that they published in December, they did a report on needs of early childhood and young families in our region. Residents face tough choices about where to live, work, and raise their families, and their decisions have lasting impacts on the local workforce and economy. We must help families and support the development of an accessible, affordable, high-quality child care network. We must have child care in all of our regional efforts. Now here's for Leelanau, this is, you don't need to read all this, but for Leelanau County, right here, we have 174 slots of quality early childhood slots for young children. And what they did is say that we have a need in this county of 280. So even if the parents could afford to do it, we're 100 or so shy spots for quality early childhood experiences. A significant challenge for our county, a significant challenge. And there are lots of reasons why those slots aren't available. So we got to figure out how to help providers provide those quality slots. How am I doing on time? Do I sound rushed? This is what early childhood programming is all about, I think, and this is from Professor James Heckman. Oh, I forgot to play a video, David. We'll do that. This guy right here is a Nobel laureate in economics, Professor James Heckman. He said that the single best investment we can make in the world is investing in early childhood programming and early childhood services. And he says for every dollar invested, you get up to $15 back in saving for prison costs, saving for remedial costs, saving for special education, and saving all of the things, all of the social costs involved with failure and school dropout and special education. So I wanna show you, David, are we ready for this, you think?
Turn that Bluetooth on.
Okay, here we go. Is it on now?
Nope.
While David's turning that on, here's a slide from Professor Heckman's work that I think we ought to all pay attention to. Here's education from age 0 to post-college. And here is the payoff. This is the rate of return on investment. So right here, the highest rate of return, way down here, post-high school, the poorest rate of return. Now, I'm not suggesting that we don't want colleges, and I'm not suggesting we don't want high school, and I'm not suggesting we don't want middle school or elementary school, but the fact of the matter is that the biggest bang for our buck comes in that very place where we spend the least amount of money, early childhood. We are stingy with early childhood in this country, stingy with early childhood. And some would say, let's just leave it up to the parents. I showed you that $9,800 and some dollar figure for childcare for one. How many kids do you have, Dee?
3.
What if you have 3? So it's a challenge that we have to come to grips with. Are we ready for that?
You betcha.
Okay, would you click it on the video? Not up there. On the screen.
I think the thing that struck me the most was this whole question. The disadvantages that disadvantaged families and kids have, how early that takes hold, and how difficult it is to remediate or change over time. Really, the way we've done things and things that we've measured and tried to focus on in schools and in society really just perpetuate gaps instead of finding ways to give people a more fair shake at life.
To foster the skills of American children, we have to help troubled American families. Politicians and scholars of public policy need to understand that the base of skills needed for success are largely formed, and most successfully formed, if they are formed, before children even enter school. The gaps between the haves and the have-nots open up early and persist. I think it's very important to understand that schools do very little to enlarge or narrow these gaps in American society. The gaps are already very wide by the time children are age 3. But the other thing to notice about this figure is that this gap doesn't get any wider or any narrower when people go to school. So we can't look to the schools solely, or certainly even mainly, to try to solve these achievement test gaps. Schools can certainly help, but the point is that we see, just in its natural setting, schools are not doing much to remove or reduce or increase these gaps. So there's a strategy here, and the strategy is basically to think about investing as a way of preventing problems, and in fact, putting it not in a negative way, but building the skill base that creates the productivity. So the logic of the plan is prevention, or really better yet, investment in the skill base, not remediation. Most American policy is still today thinking about remediation, whether it's in health, whether it's in crime, whether it's in school. We think, well, the kid's fallen behind. We think of something in the kids in the adolescent years. We try to patch the problem after it's emerged. The approach that I think is most productive and addresses these problems in a unified way is basically one that is one of pre-distribution, where early, before life begins, or before school life begins, and in the early years, we think about building a...
Okay, I'm going to shut that off because of time, but that link will be in the materials that's on the website. And Professor Heckman has a website, and there's just all sorts of resources there. I don't think the county or the state or the nation can solve this problem by throwing money at it. That's not going to solve the problem. It's going to help. But what it takes is an entire community to solve this problem. It takes working with parents. I was listening to a NPR program the other day and related parents, struggling parents, single parents especially, that are struggling financially to the same issue we had with broadband, where the bandwidth isn't enough to deal with all the important stuff. You're just focusing on what's today's emergency. We have to figure out, I think, how we can, as a community, support our families. And here's a list of a number of ways that communities are doing it, and some that we're doing here. Navigators, you know, I don't know very many intentionally bad parents. I was an educator for 45 years. I don't know that I don't want to say I never saw one, but almost never saw an intentionally poor parent, but often saw poor parents. And what we have to figure out is, if we need driver's training to drive a car and gun safety to shoot a gun, we got to figure out a way to help parents become the parents they dream of being by helping them navigate the system. And what would happen if each of us served as a navigator for a couple of families? Think what we could do in this county with that. Mentors, giving of our time and talents. Notice I'm not saying money, although that would help, but helping people learn from the successes we've had. Financial literacy, helping people do some long-range budgeting. We sometimes hear families criticized because they've got nice cars, but they have almost nothing they can live with. Well, part of it is planning for the future, financial literacy. The early childhood programming, and we don't have much time today, but our other two people are going to talk a little bit about some of the stuff that's happening in Leelanau County, some parenting education, some private-public partnerships, better housing. We in this county have the highest difference between the mean income or median income and the median cost of housing of any state in the state of Michigan. The highest cost, the highest discrepancy. That's a significant challenge for our young families. We got to figure out some safety net programs. We don't want to talk healthcare today, but obviously other countries have figured out healthcare. We ought to be able to do it. And then we need to, more importantly than anything, I think, is my last bullet point, we need to be intolerant of the people that blame it on the parents. We need to be intolerant of the people that blame it on the poor people. If only they do this, we must be intolerant. Because if we don't challenge the behavior of those people, it's going to continue and remain unchanged. And one of the worst things right now for families that are struggling is being told how they could do better if they just wouldn't do what they're doing. I'm going to end with a personal note. I've got 3 sons. I'm an educator. I got 3 sons. They're all educators. I'm so proud of it. I got a college professor son in New York. He received the Chancellor's Award for Outstanding Community College Teaching in the state of New York last year. I have a high school teacher in Grand Rapids, and I have a son who lives in Missouri, and he got his PhD in neuropsychology. He got his job at a college. He got tenure last year, promoted, tenure and promotion. Last summer, he was laid off because the state ran out of money, and they closed down his program. He's now